All right, very good. So it is my pleasure to introduce our first keynote speaker for this year, Dr. Jan Chovanec, who is a professor of English linguistics at Masaryk University in Brno. He is a very well-known name in humor studies. As I was looking up his list of publications, I realized I wasn't going to be able to read it all because there's way too many. If we just look at those that are specifically about humor, of course, the best known one is probably the 2018, the Dynamics of Intercultural Humor with Vili Tzakona. But he has a book on language and humor in the media, with Mida in 2012. And then, of course, all of his work with digital discourse, media discourses, social media interactions. And I think that there's one that's coming up it's not available yet, but it will be available in April, Experiencing Digital Discourse, Multimodality Engagement and Activism with Camila Vasquez. Okay, so we're talking royalty here within humor studies. And of course, not only is he publishing with great proclivity on all things to do with discourse and humor and media. He's also on the editorial board of several journals, Journal of Pragmatics, etc., pragmatics, internet pragmatics. So pretty much anywhere you're going to submit something, he will read it and and critique it. So it's a great pleasure to have him, also a personal friend of mine, I should say. And today he's going to delight us with his talk, which is titled Pranks and Activism, Humor Between the Frivolous and the Serious. Dr. Chovanec. You need to unmute yourself.
All right. Can you see it? Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so the screen should be on. Thanks for that. So thank you very much for your very kind introduction. I think maybe way too kind. So you're placing a lot of trust in me. I've chosen a topic here today to talk about the interconnection of humor between the frivolous and the serious. I'm going to touch on the notion of pranks, but I'm not going to go into very many details there. I'm going to present two case studies here. Now, the idea is to document the emergence of bottom-up humor, which can be linked to activism and political activism as well. One of my aims is also to note the existence of transpositions or shifts, which we see between the digital sphere and the physical sphere, and vice versa, between lay discourses and official discourses. And maybe rethink the nature of certain humor-related practices, where the current trend is to look at the development of memes, the idea of mimetic drifts. I'd like to complement this with a chronotopic conception of humor. And as I said, I will be drawing on two case studies which are related to the recent war in Ukraine. Hopefully arguing that humorous reaction is a form of political commentary. That's obvious. That's been around forever. But what we also see is a lot of semiotic play with forms, with humorous forms, which are lightly contextualized and which can involve aspects of collaborative pranking. The interest in this topic comes out of our collective research into humor in the public sphere a few years ago, which was done by a group of several European universities, where we looked at public, often controversial humor, which was ranging from cartoons, memes, to performances, artworks, and protests. And we focused on humor controversies and looked at how humor is essentially an indelible element of official communication. Also, of course, humor here is seen as the necessary ingredient of well-functioning, healthy, and open public sphere. One of the things that comes out of this approach to public humor is the notion of a hybrid media environment. A political scholar, Jonas Koivikowski, sees the hybridity on 3 levels, which are all relevant for us here today. One of them is the idea of hybrid content, the mixing of humorous and political communication in spoken, written, online, and other forms. Then the notion of hybrid practices and identities. Again, serious, humorous, official, colloquial, high and low. And in general, the hybrid public sphere, which is characterized by an interactive flow of political information and emotions between journalists, politicians, activists, satirists, citizens, experts, influencers, and so on. As well as the mixing of professional and amateur media production. What we also see in this hybrid media environment is the memeing of news material, for instance. Now, there's some research on humor and social action. Of course, the link between humor and politics has been steady, long-lasting tradition in humor studies. There's been lots of research into socialist humor and humor in repressive regimes, for instance. As a social scholar, Sorensen notes about the humor in political activism. Some interesting things, again, which are relevant for us here today. One, power structures are multidimensional and they must be addressed by multifaceted resistance, which includes what she calls humorous stunts that come in various types: supportive, corrective, naive, absurd, provocative. So the humorist here can take various kinds of stances. And these stunts can serve to attract the attention of mainstream media. Humor is a good tool because it's memorable and it can elicit a permanent critical approach. And of course, in this sense, it's also a collective action, a collective shield. I've put the word prank into the title, even though most of the material that I'll be showing is probably tangential to pranks, even though there are aspects of pranks in it. Pranks have been seen as types of, one of the types as practical jokes, for instance, where the idea is to trick the victim, the target. So the producer has some humorous intent, and there's an unsuspecting victim who is tricked, for instance, in candid camera programs on TV, on YouTube. There's countless videos where people are tricked for humorous purposes. So you've got the prankster, you've got the dupe, and possibly you have the audience there. Now, I'm interested in a slightly different dimension here, and that is the link between pranking and collectivity. Say we have a potentially humorous semiotic act, pretty much anything that can be used for some collective action or collaborative prank, as Attardo calls it. There have been cases in many cultures of public polls being hijacked. For instance, in the Czech Republic a few years ago, a poll was hijacked where the main, like the biggest Czech in history was elected a humorous persona, a non-existent persona. And that they even eventually included this guy on a postage stamp. So the authorities actually went along with this joke. Now this kind of hijacking of the public polls, the traditional thing, has attained a new dimension in the digital world, where it can be used for subversion as well as for activism. And one of the things that these practices build upon and boost is the sense of in-groupness of a particular community. It can be some alternative community, but it can be a national community as such. The approach to humor to which I subscribe is grounded in Tsakona's discourse theory of humor, where she starts with the socio-cultural assumptions, then moves to genre, and then analyzes text, or to what we have maybe more eclectically pooled into the idea of socio-pragmatics of humor, where we consider the global, macro level, social issues, social conventions, norms, as well as the local, that's the micro level, interactional, situational aspects, and contexts of humorous acts, which involves the participation roles, the frameworks, the entire communicative situation, the identities which people assume, the meta communication, the socio-cultural assumptions, broadly the context, but also the historical change, which happens to texts or genres. So humor goes through certain trajectories. Jokes and memes do have life cycles. And here, what I'm trying to do here today maybe is to complement this idea with the idea of chronotopes, which comes from sociolinguistics. Chronotopes is a concept introduced by Bakhtin, and defined as an intrinsic connectedness of temporal and spatial relationships that are artistically expressed in literature. What counts for us is the fact that it expresses the inseparability of space and time. As Anna Defina notes, it can be carried through various motifs and tropes. So you can find them in entirely different genres. They will have distinct forms, but they will be linked to a general chronotopes. Blomer calls them specific time-space configurations, and they are definitely linked to identity, since we have to take into account the complex interactions between the practice, the iteration, and creativity in social life. So chronotopes are linked to communities who recognize them as such, and they may be different and may have different instantiations in different communities, as we shall see shortly. Now, the second dimension to which this mildly links is the humor perspective, the idea of the mimetic drift that Sel has been working on recently. On the development of mimetic cycles and on the semantic bleaching, until a meme becomes just a formal vehicle onto which new content can be linked. Finally, the digital discourse perspective is attractive to me, since we're dealing here with the discursive construction of place in the digital world, place and space, is virtual, but what we are seeing is the transposition of places, creation of new places. And we have these two traditional directions, offline to online and online to offline. In the offline to online, the typical reaction, of course, once anything hits the social media, is mimetic humor, virality, and popular, and all kinds of remeshes, recontextualizations, and so on. But also, you know, the other direction is, I think, very relevant and still relatively under-researched. That is how the social practices that can be initiated in the digital space are eventually materialized in the physical space, or what kind of real-world consequences the actions in the digital world can have. So I think these two are really complementary. Now, let me move to my data. The first case, I will use the first case to illustrate the operation of the chronotopes, and the second case to illustrate how all of the humorous semiotic practices come together, how they draw on social activism, on collective pranking, and how with time the meanings become diluted and changed. So the first case study, what you see in front of you is a piece of rock. Now, this is a very significant piece of rock. It's the Snake Island in Ukraine, which was attacked by Russian Navy just exactly 3 years ago. And the attacking cruiser, Moskva cruiser, radioed a message to the island garrison to surrender. Well, what they got in reply was a message, the following message in Russian: "Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй," which translates as follows into English, essentially. In the original, it means "go on to a piece of male anatomy." So this, of course, became viral globally, and became a very famous resistance slogan. So what happens next is, well, we have the non-humorous trigger here, a very serious issue that generates humorous as well as non-humorous reactions, and it generates them both in the community among people. You know, this is the grassroots action, and also in official communication. Now, in the official communication, this has been noted that this is a part of the hybrid war communicative practices, and also, you know, it's also linked to the way institutions and authorities increasingly use mimetic material to communicate publicly. So some examples from the Czech Republic. You see, you know, features of linguistic landscape, where this slogan in its Czech version, right, literally translated Czech version, is posted onto street signs. We see public art with the slogan in the middle, and all of the semiotic content related to this. Well, this was shortly, this is 2 weeks after the event, and instantly we see a commercialization of this within weeks. So in this context, the family of the soldier who was still in captivity at that time filed for copyright protection, because people were starting to make money off this slogan, but it was eventually denied by the European Patent Office. And of course, you know, this started occurring in memes, which are in English on the left, and an interesting English and Polish version on the right, with the voyak and the Chad figures actually reenacting the scene. So What is this? What is this, from a socio or more pragmatic perspective? This slogan is in fact a verbal act of military defiance. I wonder, if we can call it a specific speech act, something like a defiant dare. I dare you. I've introduced the notion of chronotopes. I think this is a chronotope. This fits the definition which Blommaert gives for the invocable chunks of history that organize the indexical order of discourse, as he puts it. Look at this statue on the right. It says Molon Labe. It's in Greek, and it's a statue of King Leonidas, a Greek King Leonidas, who was asked by the Persians at the Battle of Thermopylae to hand over his arms, to which he replied, Molon Labe, come and take them. Essentially, we have the same kind of a meaning. We have functional equivalence. We have the defined dare. So this is the chronotope, which is realized in various forms, historically in various discourses. Right? As Defina says here, our task here then is to maybe uncover the links between the communicative acts that have taken place in very different times and spaces. So what we see is that the chronotope transcends time and space, but it also has some local formats and local variations. We've seen a Greek one. I'm going to show you two more variations, historical permutations or transmutations of this chronotope. This is the first one. This is the 1968 occupation of Czechoslovakia by the armies of the then Warsaw Pact, where this meaning was realized through phrases such as Ivan, go home, or Ivan, this essentially go home in a vulgar way, or even implicitly through presupposition that the Russian soldier has a place somewhere else than here. So Natasha is waiting, right? At full stop. That's the phrase which essentially communicates the same idea. And we have, so this is it's got a very strong 1968 connotation. In my culture, it's a part of our socio-cultural knowledge. But here we see it in this picture, we see it recontextualized to the current situation in the war with Ukraine, put on the Ukrainian flag. Right, a second or a third now after the Greek and the Czech one, instantiation of this chronotope is in this painting. It's a famous painting by Ilya Repin, which is titled the Zaporozhian Cossacks drafting a reply to the Ottoman ruler who asked them to surrender. We should say that Zaporozhian Cossacks lived in the area of modern-day Ukraine, so we actually have them in the same place. If you look at the detail of the painting, they are having a very good time, right, drafting a reply to surrender. If you're interested in what they wrote, it's a really complex speech act this time, not just two words as in Greek, but they really overindulged in all kinds of vulgarities and expletives. That's why they are having such a good fun. But in 2021, we actually see, this is before the war, we actually see the Ukrainian members of parliament reenacting the scene of the painting, right? So they're doing this prank in reply to Vladimir Putin's essay about the unity of Russians and Ukrainians. So this is happening half a year before the war starts, and they're doing this in the official setting of the Ukrainian parliament. So we see this institutional reaction, even though it's a non-official institutional reaction, where the humorous performance is used to mock the opponent and underlie the absurdity of the triggering event. Right, and the second, or the last note on the first case study is this postage stamp, which was done just a month after the Snake Island, and we see actually that the soldier showing the finger to the Russian cruiser, who happened to be sunk one day after the postage stamp was released, thereby creating another wave, another cycle of humor related to that. But we see the chronotope here again, visually mediated and done in institutional discourse. So the institution embraces this. All right. So that was the first case. And now let me move on to the main case. This is a case study on a Czech grassroots response to the war in Ukraine, where I try to document a collaborative humorous act, which is in fact a set of complex semiotic practices of all kinds, which has come to be known as mock Czech annexation of Kaliningrad. And we'll see memes that are being used as political commentary, but also as pure semiotic play. We'll also see how a chronotope potentially is emerging here. The chronotope is the absurdity of border change and how they become culturally established. So the triggering event here is a highly political event. In September 2022, referendums were held in the 4 Russian-controlled territories in Ukraine, with the result that a substantial percentage of the population wants to become a part of Russia. So it was declared these regions belong to Russia. Some starting preliminaries about Czechia. I come from a small nation. It's a small nation that ends up with its boundaries and various historical points. And Czechs do not seriously entertain imaginary claims over other territories. And importantly, they do not have the sea, which is something of a national obsession or trauma, right? So we're a landlocked nation and we just don't have the sea. This is a very serious disaster. Here we get to the humorous reaction to the annexation of the Ukrainian territories by Russia. At the beginning of all of this action was actually a Polish tweet by someone who calls themselves the Pope of the Internet. And the text here says, it's time to split Kaliningrad in such a way that our brothers Czechs finally have access to the sea, right? And this tweet was taken up by a Czech member of European Parliament, Tomáš Zdechovský, who translated this and added, and then you can't not love the Poles. So what is happening here is a huge viral reaction under the banner Kaliningrad is Czechia. But why Kaliningrad of all places? Kaliningrad is a small enclave. It's in the Baltics. It has no land connection to Russia or to the Czech Republic for that matter. We have no common history. And there are no Czech inhabitants, right? The city and the enclave was a part of Prussia. It was settled by Germans, but also Polish, Lithuanian, and Latvian minorities. The only claim, a very flimsy and ridiculous historical claim, is that the city was named, the city of Königsberg, originally, Královec in Czech, Kraloviec in Polish, and now Kaliningrad in Russian, was named after a Czech king after its foundation in 1255. Right, so that is the only historical link. Right, that's a humorous absurdity. All right. So the material which this is based on is a collection of over 250 memes and humorous elements from online sources, Reddit and the Czech media, which emerged half a year after the event. Some trends appeared in this data: fictionalizations, semiotic play, collaborative pranking, the emergence of chronotypes, and playful nationalism. This was very much a Czech and Polish phenomenon, right? We shared this between ourselves. For instance, the meme that you see right now is a Polish meme, which says Czechs, after winning the referendum, are going to annex the Kaliningrad region, right? And what you see are two cartoon figures from Czech children's series, which are hugely popular in Poland. And these stand as kind of representations of Czechs to the Poles. So some examples of data are a day after the Nord Stream gas pipeline sabotage. The following meme appeared, styled as a fake news item. You see breaking news. And the quote here says, Czech Republic is starting work on critical infrastructure to support the takeover of Kaliningrad. So you have the beer stream 1 going from the capital city Prague to Warsaw and then to Králové, right? And you see how far it is actually from the Czech Republic, but it's totally separated, this enclave, right? Which eventually had some interesting modifications here, like extending it. Also, you know, the text underneath is nicely relevant. The German MP expressed their fears concerning beer stream 2. This is an interesting phenomenon which occurred on Twitter and on the internet. A spoof website was founded for the country. Visit Králové, CZ, where you get tourist information about the locality as if it was Czech and as if it was luring Czech tourists. So you get fake news items. You can read them in English here about train lines, about offices opening their offices there, institutions opening their offices, beaches, even military aircraft with humorous names, geography features, and so on. So that was one aspect of this online pranking, online humorous activism. And then there was an interesting phenomenon which happened on Reddit, because Reddit sub-thread was founded under the /Králové, which is the Czech name of the city. So what you see on the right is a meme which shows you a screenshot on the left from the official Russian Kaliningrad site and the Czech spoof subreddit thread, Reddit subthread Králové. You see the logo of the city is modified to include the Czech flag and so on. And the text here says the numbers are still growing. I think it's clear who Králové really belongs to. This comes at the moment when the number of members in that Reddit subthread actually increased, overtook the Russian one. There was a lot of action on verbal duels on these sites. The moderators of the Kaliningrad thread commented repeatedly on actually not understanding this kind of a joke, this kind of humor, that they tried to hijack the thread. This even made it into the official rules for the thread. The second one, no secessionist calls Kaliningrad is Russia, get real. And on the Czech Královec side, the parallel site, we get similar meta-pragmatic comments. This is just a joke, and currently Královec is not part of the Czech Republic. Feel free to express yourself, but it's just a joke, so no need for hate speech. Right? So this is what the page looks like. I will speed up and show some of the shifts from the online to physical space. Similar events, similar remappings happened in other places. And this is a physical response in Turku in Finland, where they painted a Ukrainian flag on a parking lot. And then on the right, somebody actually went to the edge of Královec, to the border between Poland, Lithuania, and Kaliningrad, and stuck a sign there, made a short video about this being a part of the Czech Republic. Maybe less, something that could be expected a little bit less than the previous examples, is how this grassroots activism was actually taken up by official communication channels. So you have a screenshot here from a TV weather forecast, which shows you the map of the Czech Republic, but also the map of the little enclave of Královec, showing you weather for that. Right? This was happening for a few days. When actually, public figures jumped on the bandwagon. Like here, this is the Czech Prime Minister talking to the Finnish and the Polish Prime Ministers. And, here they are joking that the next time they would meet in Královec, right? The Czech spelling, of course, is significant here, which indicates that, they're on this joke, that it's a part of Czechia. And this is a collection of all kinds of institutions, the Czech Railways, the Czech Post, delivery services, an electronics shop, who are, as I say, jumping on the bandwagon and claiming they are looking for staff to fill their new offices in Královec, and so on. So this becomes a part of their official communication channels, in which they join this collaborative prank, this collective action of pretending that a part of Russia now belongs to Czechia. Some formal aspects include the use of cartoons, and all of these originate in Poland, so they're in Polish, with the English translation there. Slogans, we see, make Královec Czech again, a clear evocation, allusion to global politics. Switches of languages. This one says at the top, hello, how are you? How are you, Kaliningrad? And the one at the bottom, which is in Russian, the one at the bottom in Czech says, this is not Kaliningrad, but Královec, sorry. Similarly, we get Putin here asking in Russian, hello, what's the situation in Kaliningrad? And the response is, what do you mean, ahoy, which is a Czech greeting that he gets at the end of the line. And this meme is Polish, right? This is in Polish. Now, two additional points here concern a very subtle subversion, what could be called a phonological war. If you look at these two screenshots from the Russian site, Kaliningrad, right, the official site, Kaliningrad on Reddit, you see a bizarre spelling here. This uses a Czech diacritic mark for a Czech letter. It's R, pronounced as which users started putting on the Russian side as a kind of a humorous provocation. And then, you know, the screenshot on the right, how is it living in Kaliningrad, was enough to actually get banned by the moderator. Because it uses the Czech diacritic, you know, just because of that diacritic, implying that they hold the idea that Kaliningrad is a part of Russia, but there is some Czechness in it. Now, the interesting thing that started happening to this phoneme or sign is that it started developing new indexicalities. So on Reddit, you get these kinds of posts, right? Like or even these short dialogues, right? Which is all there is to it, as well as similar, you know, sounds and diacritics in Czech, which indicate, you know, the nationalism or the play with the, you know, it's like algo speak, that you are communicating a meaning which you can't say openly, but this becomes a part of cryptic communication. But also it becomes very much linked to the national identity, right? A similar sound exists in Polish. This is the joke. This is the meme on the right, and this meme occurred at the same time, where you have the guy on the left is Czech with the diacritic, and he affirms that he has nothing. Well, the sound is different from Polish, so yes, we are unique. I mean, you get this fetishization of the phoneme, like here, countries that have R in the alphabet, lots of others. This is the idea of the linguistic fetish, where you know, a sign is used for something else than its informational content. This is used in marketing, for instance. And here, in the context of the Královec meme, Královec situation, it indexes the national identity, pride, the awareness of the small nation, that we're no major player. The army is a joke, the land grabs are a joke, and we perceive ourselves playfully in a negative way, right? Some other examples how this started to be used is, you know, alluding to the sound on Russian vehicles, or even, you know, this one, which looks like a heavy-duty military machinery. But what's significant here is the verbal incongruity. The text at the top says "na Královec," which is actually a battle cry onto Královec, onto Kaliningrad. Which evokes the Czech national humorous anti-hero Švejk, who uttered the phrase "onto Belgrade" when he was supposed to be conscripted, and he faked to be handicapped. And again, you know, this is something which, as in terms of a chronotype, is something that's very deeply embedded into the cultural consciousness. And you see this reenacted or accepted, incorporated by the national discourses, institutional discourses, as you know, so it appears on a postage stamp, as well as, you know, the reenactment of this fictional scene in street parades, for instance. Right. So some ideas here about, you know, the left cycle of a meme. All this lasted for about 3 months, and after that, the community itself, the online community itself, started reflecting on the demise of this theme, right? That it's gone. That's not really the case. I think this has become. This does have an afterlife, right? It has this topic afterlife, and it can be reactivated and it is reactivated every now and then. For instance, in the election campaign, or when spying balloons were flying over the USA, then somebody comes up with a meme like spy balloon was observed over the sea at Králové, right, which shows a mug of beer, a Czech national drink, right? And then half a year later, just out of the blue, you get a meme like this. Did you know you can sail in a straight line from Czechia to Sweden? And that's it, right? This is not indexing any current issue. It's pure semiotic playfulness, and it's reliving, bringing into life again the theme, the topic of Králové. The last one occurred in July 2024, and this was placed on the Králové meme. Again, you see, we need help with the capital in the title, which is indexing, the banal, non-serious nationalism. And this is a screenshot from a website, Rewriting History, where you're supposed to vote who Kaliningrad should go to. So they offer Germany, Russia, Poland, and then Czechia. So whoever started this was aware of the campaign, but you see that the people voting, the international people voting for this, actually who wanted Germany. So this was posted on the Czech website, and again you get this collective action, collective prank. Let's vote in this poll, and let's convince the digital community that it's us. So it's this prank element. It's Polish and Czech again. This is this also occurs in comments from Czech politicians. This is the current ambassador to Poland who's commenting on this phenomenon just a few months ago. So to wrap up, right? Sel talks about the mimetic drift, about how through reproduction and remixing, the meaning is changed and the semantics go away from memes. So what we end up with is a floating signifier. I think that's brilliant. That's a very attractive idea. I'm wondering, if we adopt the idea of chronotopes, if that is perhaps something that complements this. So it's a reverse perspective. So basically, we have some idea, a chunk of meaning, a chunk of history that undergoes formal transformation, right? So it's something that's relatively stable across time and space with little change of meaning. It can be this, defined there. It can be this, Czechness as being non-serious and just laughing at ourselves. This kind of a theme. So it's a floating signified that gets new instantiations in various situations. So in terms of humor and activism, humor-related practices, of course, are hugely effective forms of public criticism, commentary, and resistance. You can easily delegitimize an idea without an easy counter-reaction from the other side. Also, this is something that gets very easy media access, right? It's easily mediatized, taken up, and reworked. So humor is a form or even a culture of resistance. It can create resistance mentality. So we're shifting from the individual to a collective dimension. Various functional types appear here. Concerning the space, I mentioned the space dimension was important. We have transpositions from the digital to the physical space through pranks, happenings, what people do out in the open, at the borders or in front of embassies. These are further mediated digitally. Hence, they're creating a momentum, right? And an action can take a full swing, and other other forms of semiotic acts can become incorporated. The shift from personal spaces to public spaces, we saw institutional reactions, right? These can be passive, merely press reports, which are very common on these events, but also, the active involvement of the institutions who continue and create further humor. So they jump on the bandwagon. That's an important element. So political discourse then itself incorporates resistance, humorous playfulness, right? Even politicians between themselves. I'll switch to the last one and go to the last point here. This is the shift from real to fictional spaces. Fictionalization creates some kind of a humorous fictional world. It's not just the idea that a land belongs to someone, but this is a space defined by playfulness, non-seriousness, and a switch to a humorous mode, right? Something which in big Latin we could call mundus ludus irrealis. The very last slide concerning the idea of chronotopes. These are the time-space configurations. Potentially, this could be seen as different from mimetic themes and constructs. These are the semiotic practices that eventually transcend time. They're culturally entrenched meanings that can circulate and re-emerge in new forms, in new different places, but they're linked to one and the same global or general idea behind them. Mimetic forms may have a limited life, right? What appears with this case study and previous case studies that I'm working on is that such activism has a limited time frame, that there's a moment in the society when this is possible, and it lasts for a few weeks, and then it transpires, right? Also, here we have the sociolinguistic notion of indexicality. So the indexical order of discourse, we see new meanings emerge. For instance, the r sound, the r phoneme in Czech suddenly becomes indexical of the banal, humorous nationalism and starts indexing all of this socio-cultural history, which we now have. So we have more than just units of meaning. These are indexical and identity forming and affirming. And that's my last thought. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for this presentation. It's very, very interesting. First of all, I want to note that by pure chance, I'm actually wearing socks today with this cartoon character on it from my last trip to Prague. So that's fun. I wanted to ask specifically concerning your first case study. How much do you think is the Ukrainian communication, the humorous communication during their war effort, influenced by Volodymyr Zelensky himself being a comedian? Do you think that plays any role in this?
Well, I don't know. I really don't. But he is a comedian. As far as I know, he had a hard time at the beginning of his office to actually prove that he's worthy, that he's not a joker. And it's interesting, this kind of perception happens to people who happen to have background in comedy and acting, for instance. I don't know why that is. This was already the case with the COVID pandemic, for instance, when the Ukrainian Ministry of Health was issuing recommendations on how to behave to people by using memes. So they seem to have had some tradition in the official institutional discourse already to adopt certain humorous memes. This was apparent in in the first months of or in the first year of the war, when there were several cases when various ministries turned elements associated with the war into humorous or quasi-humorous acts. One of them was, for instance, when they compiled a list of videos, and they they suggested they nominated them for the official Grammy awards, saying like the best acting, and then the best this and that, and they showed a video of a destroyed helicopter and so on. So I mean, you could say recontextualizing very serious things into pop culture, amusement, entertainment style, right? But this has been happening. But since I'm not Ukrainian, I don't follow. I get mediated access to these data on the internet.
All right. Are there any other questions? We have maybe 2 minutes left. Okay, then please join me again in thanking our keynote speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you.